Who are we voting for? Meet the candidates. Who Are We Voting For was created so we could understand who the candidates are and what they are about. This is not an endorsement for any candidate. This is for the voter to be more educated about who we're voting for.
Hello, my name is Ilan and I work at the District Attorney's Office, where I am the supervisor of the Violent Crimes and Firearms Division, and my title is Deputy District Attorney. But before I began my work at the DA's office, I actually grew up in New York City, where both my parents, my mom grew up in Iraq as a young child and left her home country due to the Jewish people being persecuted in Iraq, as well as my father, who grew up in Berlin, Germany, around 1917, and he also left his home country due to the Jews being persecuted. Both of them ended up in Israel, where they met, and my dad then began working as a travel agent in New York City, and that is where I was born. I grew up in New York up until age 17, born and raised there, went to school there, and then after graduating high school, I moved to Pittsburgh to attend Carnegie Mellon University, where I was going to study architecture, and I've been in Pittsburgh ever since. I live in Squirrel Hill with my wife Lisa and our 3 kids, Ellie, who is age 12, my son age 10, his name is Ben, and my youngest, Josephine, and she is age 7, and my mother, who actually recently celebrated her 90th birthday, recently moved from New York and also lives with us in Pittsburgh now. Where do you want me to pick up from?
Right there, right where you're at.
Yeah, so I attended Carnegie Mellon University, goal of becoming an architect, but 4 years later graduated with a business degree and a minor in architecture. And the reason that is relevant, why I even mention that, is because I found both areas interesting, but it really wasn't passionate by either. So over the course of the next year, I made the decision that I wanted to be a trial attorney who prosecuted homicide cases. I wanted to be a voice for those that are impacted by violence. And as I think about it now, reflecting, one of the motivations I think that really influenced me and made me do what I want to do now is that my close friend in college, over one of the breaks, his mother was actually murdered in a home invasion. At the time, I really didn't know how to address that or say anything to him. And, it was very, very uncomfortable. And I realized, that was part of the motivation. I wanted to do something. I wanted to do something for those that are impacted by violence. And so I set out on the career that I'm doing now, and it's been 26 years now that I've been at the District Attorney's Office prosecuting homicide cases. The skills that I think I possess that put me in a position to succeed as a court of common pleas judge really come back to the experience I have of 26 years in the criminal justice system. I've tried hundreds of cases, which has given me insight into the communities that the judges serve, into the people that live in those communities. But in addition to that, it's also my job as a prosecutor, which has prepared me well. And as a prosecutor, I have to use a lot of discretion. A lot of times, I get calls from the police. They want to file charges on certain cases. And it's my job as a prosecutor to listen to what they have to say, to make sure that the evidence is there, and that I believe that we actually can prove and make our burden of proof on that case. And it's a lot analogous to what a judge has to do. A judge has to sit in judgment and listen to both sides of the case. As a prosecutor, my goal is simply to do the right thing. I don't advocate for a certain position. I don't advocate for a client. I represent the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and that includes all the citizens. And my job is to make sure that justice is served. So if somebody comes to me with charges, they want me to prove those charges, I make sure that the evidence is there. And as a judge, you do similar things. You listen to both sides of a story, and you make a decision based on the evidence in front of you, which is exactly what I do as a prosecutor. And both goals, as a prosecutor and a judge, is to do the right thing. The reason I'm running for judge on the Court of Common Pleas is really about my dedication to public service and my willingness and wanting to help my community. It's some of the same reasons that I became a prosecutor. I wanted to do the right thing. I wanted to do work for my community. And I realized, after going to college, after studying architecture and eventually graduating business, what really motivates me is public service. So again, that's why I went into becoming a prosecutor. It's why I do the job I do to this day. And after 26 years in the criminal justice system, you start to understand, you have better insight into what's going on in the courthouse. And at this point in my career, I feel that I am ready to sit in judgment of other people. And it's not just a wanting to do the good thing. It's because I have the experience, because I have been in the courtroom for 26 years of my career, and I understand the insights in the criminal justice system. And I believe that I can make our judiciary better. I think that I could be somebody who definitely understands the situation and can appreciate both sides, and not just in favor of Commonwealth or the defense, but truly someone who wants to get to the truth, wants to make the right decisions, and wants to help my community. So in running for judge, I think one of the biggest obstacles that I'm facing is that people don't understand what a judge does and why a judge matters. And I think people, unfortunately, don't take it as seriously as they should. But people need to realize that the judges that we elect in the Court of Common Pleas, which is our trial division, have an incredible significance and play a huge role in people's lives. And the decisions they make have everlasting consequences. They don't just hit on the individual, but can also extend to the community. And one of the experiences in my career that really, I think, maybe drives home the importance of judges is a case I recently handled in which an individual was arrested several times over a course of a few months for possessing an illegal gun. That person was ultimately let out of jail as he was awaiting trial on those charges. Now, whether that's the right decision, the wrong decision is really not the point. But what I'm trying to show you, and why you need to care about who you're electing for judge and do your research and make sure you have candidates who actually have experience, is because the decision that was made in this case had an impact forever. And what happened was, after this person got released from jail, shortly after, he ended up shooting somebody else. Now, that person that he shot is now paralyzed. Obviously, this is going to affect his life forever, his family's life. So these things that maybe are not completely obvious as far as what a judge does, but the judge makes decisions on pretrial detention. They make decisions on whether somebody is guilty or not guilty. They make evidentiary decisions as to what evidence comes in. In order to make those decisions and be informed and make the right decisions, you need somebody who's got experience. Now, the other thing that I think is incredibly important and what you need to look for in your judge is temperament. They always say that, you give somebody power, you really, you can see what kind of character they are. And this is another situation where I learned that lesson the hard way as far as judicial temperament. It was a case in which probably happened 20 years ago. I was a much younger attorney, obviously. I was prosecuting one of my very first homicide cases. And it was a case in which two teenagers were both murdered. Both were shot to death. Mom of one of the kids comes home from work and comes home to see this. And obviously, this case is awful. The families were devastated by it, and the importance of it is obvious. And this is a really good example as to why you need to care about the judges that you elect, because they can affect things. So in this case, it was probably the first or second day of trial. It was pretty early on. I had about 20 witnesses that I needed to call, and we were just in the beginning. And it was after the lunch recess, and it was up to me to call my next witness. I had information that the witness I was going to call, which was somebody from the lab, was going to be about 15 minutes late. The judge did not talk to the attorneys before he called in the jury. So after lunch, I walked in the courtroom. The judge took the bench, called the jury. So the jury was now in the box. We had the family, the gallery. It was a pretty full courtroom. And the judge instructed me to call my next witness. I explained to him that my witness was going to be a little late. And I will never forget the look in his eye and the thing he said to me at that moment. And he told me that I was to call my next witness or rest my case, which was impossible at that point. And if I had rested my case, there was no way to prevail in this case. I would not be able to prove my case. So I was faced with a really difficult decision on how to proceed. I ended up having to call the detective who was one of the witnesses, but he wasn't prepared to testify that day. We had to take him out of order. And while we got through it, the point of this is that it's unnecessary. The job of a judge is to get to the truth. And if you are treating the people in front of you in this manner, then the objective is not met. The objective isn't met. The goal of a judge is really to get to the truth of the matter and to be fair. And if you are treating people in that manner, well, obviously, you're not going to get there. And the other thing it does too, which is really important, is it creates public distrust. That was a courtroom full of people who witnessed a judge talk to me in that manner on a case in which two innocent people were murdered. So I think that really is something that voters should be looking for. They need judges who have the proper temperament, experience, and the integrity. It's not enough just to have experience, not just enough to be well-intentioned. You really have to be someone of good character, who cares about the job and who really wants to do a good job and is not just there for themselves. What you want from your judges are judges with experience, compassion, and integrity. I've been dedicating my career to seeking justice for our communities in my position as the supervisor of the Violent Crimes and Fire Division, and we need judges who have the confidence, the integrity, and the experience to make the difficult decisions judges have to make, such as rulings on pretrial detention, verdicts, the admissibility of evidence, but also judges who have the proper compassion and the temperament to treat the people that come before them with dignity and respect. I view my job as a prosecutor with the simple goal of doing the right thing, which means that if you don't believe in your case, if you don't believe you can prove your case, well, then you don't proceed. And sometimes the right thing to do is not charge at all or even withdraw charges. And just because something is criminal, it doesn't necessarily mean we have to criminalize it. There are other ways to deal with certain cases. And this is something that I have because of my experience and my knowledge. Now, the other thing that you have to consider is just how important our judges are. And you could see it playing out today on the federal level. The judges are essentially the last line of defense, safeguarding our constitutional rights and protecting our democracy. And we need judges who have the integrity and the compassion and want to do the right job and want to do the right thing. And that's what you have in me. I went into the district attorney's office for the right reasons. I wanted to be a voice for those impacted by violence. And I want to be a judge for the right reasons because I want to serve my community and I want to do the right thing every day for the citizens of Allegheny County. And that's why you should vote for me.